It seems to me that adjuvants multiply the immunogenicity of the antigens that they are added to, and that is their intention. It seems to me they multiply the reactogenicity in many instances, and therefore it seems to me that it is not unexpected if they multiply the incidence of adverse reactions that are associated with the antigen but may not have been detected through lack of statistical power in the original studies. Now, I wonder if this thinking is correct, and if it is, whether this has some implications for the way we do pharmacovigilance. Because one vaccine that has one antigen and an adjuvant, and another vaccine that has a different antigen and no adjuvant, the reason for the difference is not immediately obvious.
The local reactogenicity, you are correct. As we add adjuvants, especially some of the more recent adjuvants, such as the AS01, sapinin-derived adjuvants, we do see increased local reactogenicity. The primary concern, though, usually is systemic adverse events rather than local adverse events. And we tend to get in the phase 2 and the phase 3 studies quite good data on the local reactogenicity. The major health concern which we are seeing are accusations of long-term effects. So what we have to bear in mind is that we don't use adjuvants by themselves. The adjuvant is used in combination with an antigen. And an adjuvant may give quite different responses depending on which antigen it is combined with. So the fact that an adjuvant is shown to be safe with one antigen might give a different response with another antigen because of other things that are with that second antigen, including impurities.
Los expertos de Corvelva.it investigaron tanto química como biológicamente la vacuna Priorix tetra cuadrivalente contra el sarampión, la rubiola, las paperas y la varicela y encontraron dentro de la vacuna de GlaxoSmithKline Priorix tetra proteobacteria, gusanos, 10 virus, numerosos retrovirus endógenos humanos y aviares, virus de inmunodeficiencia humana e inmunodeficiencia de monos, fragmentos de HIV, VIS, virus de la anemia infecciosa del caballo y otros virus como el virus de la hepatitis B y el virus de la levadura. Ver en corvelva.it.
I'll just say a few words about adjuvants. So adjuvants are added to vaccines for many reasons, but primarily to make the vaccines work. And as we enter the next decade, and we're trying to make vaccines against malaria, TB, HIV, GBS, RSV, it is extremely likely that these are going to require adjuvants. Without adjuvants, we are not going to have the next generation of vaccines. And many of the vaccines that we do have, ranging from tetanus through to HPV, require adjuvants in order for them to work. So the challenge that we have in front of us is, how do we build confidence in this? When we add an adjuvant, it's because it is essential. But when we add them, it adds to the complexity. And I give courses every year on how do you develop vaccines, how do you make vaccines. And the first lesson is, while you're making your vaccine, if you can avoid using an adjuvant, please do so. Lesson 2 is, if you're going to use an adjuvant, use one that has a history of safety. And lesson 3 is, if you're not going to do that, think very carefully.
Of what happens with the aluminium adjuvant following a vaccination, and potentially where that aluminium could end up in the human body. There are no clinically approved aluminium adjuvants. What happens if you expose these cells to one of the most common forms of aluminium adjuvant, Al hydrogel? So here we can see now, and it's probably as easy to look at the inserts, but this is the nucleus. All of this bright orange fluorescence you see here, and even beautiful, really bright here, this is aluminium adjuvant that's been taken up inside these cells. So these cells load up with the aluminium adjuvant. They fill their cytoplasm with it. Now, actually, we shouldn't be shocked by this, because This is probably, or possibly, we're not sure which of that is true, how the adjuvants work in enabling and facilitating the immune response. Because the antigen, the thing you're being vaccinated against, that has to be transported to the lymph nodes of your body to instigate the immune response. And these are the cells that carry it, and the assumption being that they carry it associated with the adjuvant. We find the adjuvant goes inside the cytoplasm of the cell. We also find, here's a TEM image now of one of these cells exposed to the aluminium adjuvant. And you can see aluminium adjuvant here, and on the next image, here you see it, and here's, you can see the membrane. It's inside a vesicle. Look at this, that's 1 micron. 1 micron across. How much time do they have to go anywhere in the body carrying this cargo of aluminium? The HPV vaccine has the highest level of what we call adverse or serious adverse events following vaccination. The level is around 2.4, 2.5%. That's a hell of a lot of people getting ill when they receive a vaccine. So this has turned out to be our most controversial paper. You can probably guess why from the title. If aluminium is involved in autism, we will find it in the brain tissue of people who've died of autism. And what this study showed was absolutely that, in buckets and spades worth. The huge, significant amounts of aluminium in brain tissue in 5 individuals who died of autism, where we were able to quantify it. And by the way, these are the only 5 autism brains available in the United Kingdom. We didn't only look at 5, we looked at all of them. We actually had 10 brains where we could also do the microscopy, because we had fixed tissue for 5 more. Now, it's all very one way, it's finding lots and lots of aluminium in brain tissue. I find that pretty appalling, knowing what I know about aluminium as a neurotoxin. But what we found next, using the microscopy, so some similar images to what I've just shown you, was for me even more shocking. And what we're seeing here, it's difficult for you to see, I'm sure, but this is the hippocampus of an individual who died with autism. This is an area of the hippocampus known as the meninges, which is the place where the lymphatic system and the brain come together. Things move from the lymphatic system into the brain and vice versa. And what we were able to see here are lymphocytes, almost identical to those that come to the injection site of a vaccine, loaded up with aluminium, crossing into the brain tissue. So we have a situation where we're getting aluminium coming into brain tissue and being found in non-neuronal cells, pro-inflammatory cells, the types of cells that are responsible for cleaning up aluminium throughout the body, including at injection sites of vaccines, which include an aluminium adjuvant. These are cells full of aluminium. These cells will die. These cells will release a large cargo of neurotoxic aluminium where they die. Unfortunately, particularly it would seem since we started to work on vaccines, the vast majority of my funding is gone.